going to be making beef cheek, and this is one of my favourite recipes, if I'm honest. It's kind of symbolic of my cooking journey because, like most people, my introduction to cooking was via a celebrity chef, Jamie Oliver, and one of my favourite things that he ever made was the steak Guinness and cheese pie. So I've kind of evolved that recipe over the years, and today we're not going to be making a pie, but we're going to be making a steak, porter and cheese stew, because it's October, it's autumn, you need something a bit more comforting. So these are beef cheeks, cheapest chips. Get these from Joe at the village butchers. Been doing a bit of business with Joe for a little while now. It's become somewhat of a friend. We've been out, we've met in real life, all that good stuff. So all I'm doing here is I'm just taking off anything that looks a bit unpleasant. I'm not going to stress too much about it, because when it comes to cook, it's all going to fall apart anyway, and I can pick it out easily once it's done. So I'm keeping it really simple today. I'm just going to apply a basic rub, Dirty Cow, which is, don't know what this rub is, I know I like it. So this is a coffee based rub. It's quite peppery, ideal on beef, it gives it a really nice crust and flavour. Sometimes I might use a binder, but these are straight out the bag. They're pretty wet. I'm not going to bother today. So we're aiming it for 150C. I've got a small fire in there, I've got some quality lump wood, and I've got a chunk of oak wood, and that's going to impart smoky flavour. Now I've used quite a big split today, because just in the summer, beef, it doesn't really over smoke. It just it's just going to sit there and smoulder away nicely. However, if it gets to the point where it's like 160 or whatever, I'm probably not going to stress it that much, to be honest. We're just going to roast these because they're not going to dry out, because about halfway through the cook we're going to put them into a braise and liquid and stock. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Dutch oven. So even though the meat's not going to be in the Dutch oven straight away, it's going to be in there warming up, because what I want is when I put it in there, I want it to be up to temperature. I don't want to shock it by putting something cold into the grill. So put the Dutch oven on, that's going to warm up, that's just going to sit in there with it. At the moment we're still running a bit cold, so I've got this open at the top, because that's going to work like a chimney starter. It's going to pull air in from the bottom, it's going to bring it up to around 150. Again, I'm not so worried if it goes a bit hot today. It's not going to dry out because we're going to be whacking it in a braise. So I've had these standing for a while now. I've got the Dirty Cow on there, and you can see it just kind of, where I sprayed it with the water, it's kind of gone a little bit wet, which is what you're looking for, because you don't want a dry rub hitting the smoke, because it'll just burn. So this, especially when you're going hot and fast like we are, so just having that little bit of liquid is just going to help them when we add them to the heat. So we're running about 140 at the moment. I'm looking for 150. It's no big drama. Just temper up the top vent a little bit and that should come up. So I've got my Dutch oven in warming up. I'm going to pop them in here. I love oak smoke. It's the smell of it when you add it in. I wouldn't normally use these, but we got it, so we're going to pop that in there. And that's just going to take our mind off of things. We're not going to have to look at it, we're going to know what it's doing.
What temperature do you want to heat the meat to?
Oh, the temperature? I'm not sure. I just want to know that I'm going to be going more for colour today, because when we put it into the braise, it's going to cook through anyway, so that will cover that off. But I guess, hard to say really. I mean, some people, they smoke these all the way through. I rarely do. They're nearly always going in a pie or a stew or anything like that. But I guess you treat it like you would a brisket. Once it gets up to 75, happy with the bark, wrap them in some foil or some beach paper. Alright, so we've been having this smoking away over oak all morning, about 150. Now these are pretty much cooked all the way through now. They're about 92, 95 on the inside. But what I'm excited about is this lovely kind of caramelized vegetables. They've got all them lovely colours and textures. And what I'm doing now, I'm just going around and getting anything that's kind of caught on the outside, anything that's a bit gnarly. I'm working it back into the stew, and I know that my shallots are starting to come apart, my carrots, so if I give some of them a mash, they're not going to be too hard. Without breaking the fourth wall too much, I've got some of these cherry tomatoes left over from another cook, so we're not going to waste them. We're just going to pop them into here and mash them in a bit, because this is going to help thicken it up and it's going to give it another element. So I don't really know how my beef cheeks are looking, but they're just still they're not quite ready to come apart, but they're getting close. So we're just going to whack them back in there. We're also, while we've got it off, this is the chance when you want to start tasting it, see what you've got for flavour. So that's got, at the moment, it's got quite almost like a bitter taste to it. So I'm going to add some garlic in, and to deal with that kind of heavy, robust taste, I'm going to add some tomato puree, which I have somewhere over the rainbow. So what I'm hoping is when I add this tomato puree, is it's going to fix some of that bitterness. So I'm going to work that in. And that's coming on to take a lovely deeper red. So I'm not going to do anything with that for now, other than plonk it back in. I might be tempted to add some liquid. What I'm going to do also, is I'm just going to start to give these a little bit of encouragement, because I want the heat to get in. I want them to start breaking up. So let's go ahead, get that back onto the heat. At this point you can crank it up a bit now, you can get it running a bit hotter. It's just really just trying to get that final kind of bit so that all the meat comes apart. And then quite literally, all we're going to do is we're going to melt some cheese on top, and we're going to work it all in. And that's going to give us our steak Guinness and cheese, or beef cheek Guinness and cheese pie filling, stew, casserole, sandwich, whatever you want to do with it. Right, so I've got 200 grams of cheese. I know it's 200 grams of cheese because I weighed it when you guys weren't watching. And now, like a pro, I'm going to go and grate that cheese good. So this is what's going to finish it. This is going to set this apart from a regular stew. And like I said, this can be a stew, it can be a pie filling, it can be anything. When I started making this, it's from a Jamie Oliver recipe, and I've adapted it over the years to make it my own. So we've melted the cheese. It's looking different again now. It's looking unctuous. So if you want to know what unctuous means, you're going to have to head over to Edge Barbecue's show, because we don't know. So this was the beef cheek, cheese and Guinness stew. Now, we didn't actually use Guinness, we used a porter ale from an independent brewery. But you can use Guinness, you can use any dark stout, you can use whatever you like. Now the magic is when you stir it around now, you see all that cheese has gone in there. What's the word?
Unctuous.
And it's gone all nice and unctuous. So, full disclosure, we're not going to eat all of this today, because obviously we've filmed more than one episode, but this is going to become a pie filling. So that's with any stew, you can serve it however you like. We're just going to break up a bit of thyme over the top, just give it a bit of colour, and we're going to make sure they're all different sizes. Some are going to be big, some are going to be small, and you can serve this with whatever you like, right? But because you're here and I know you like it, I'm going to serve it with some white bread. I know this is the one you've been looking forward to. So you went for the fork. I thought you'd have been straight in for the bread.
Oh wow. Yeah. That's like, sounds stupid to say, but that's like exactly what I expected it to be like. Like texture wise, taste wise.
Yep. Cheek comes apart. I probably put a little bit more salt in it. Now it's should have gave it another taste. Maybe add a little bit more salt.
Don't need that much.
Possibly a bit of black pepper. But you know that smokiness I was worried about before? That's completely gone now. The cheese and the ale and the tomato, that's completely offset that. And there you go, stew sandwich.
Definitely unctuous.
Unctuous.
Anyone who watches these might think this is just a self-indulgent way for me to go around and get food cooked for me by people.
Never.
Which it is. But again, you might be seeing a pattern amongst the things, like everyone's cooked beef cheeks. It's massively important to be able to realise how many different ways there are to cook the same food. Each time I've had this with Phil, Rob and Kev, they've all been wildly different.
Amazing.
And it's absolutely beautiful.
So there we have it, beef cheek, Guinness and cheese casserole or stew. Perfect meal for the autumn. Takes you back to your childhood. It's like having a hug from your nan. The perfect meal. What can I say? Hopefully you liked the video. I had a lot of fun making it. Thank you to Clarky for coming down and doing this. Hopefully you like the channel. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Check out the other chefs in the collective, Brew Shack, Edge Barbecue. We've got loads of cool things coming up. We're really just finding our feet. Anything could happen on this channel. Can't wait to share it with you.